aya yoxatini. Ya aya. Hade aya chogutin. A data we utachta. Gwalli ʼaduwóosʼ yata. Dasa yisaku náakw daat. Náakw sawe yisaku a daat. Klingetani ka yeti at. Yawe. De ʼaduwóosʼ. Dasa yisaku náakw daat. Náakw sawe yisaku a daat. Dasa yisaku náakw daat. Náakw sawe yisaku a daat. Klingetani ka. Klingetani ka yeti at.
Echt. Awa.
Tlachtlatsini at ʼatudli. Wasa a data we ye datune. Sikuke ʼacht. Gwalli sitin wasa dati jagachine. Gwall náakw ituasaku. We kayani again. A dati jagachine. We kayak. Isikuke ketl. Ketl ge isaku. Dasakshawe.
Kayani? Is it tight?
Kayani.
Oh.
Wait, dech a kudziti ketl. Gwall yadu a we gun. Konachawil de cut at the kausagan. A kausagan de cut at. Ketl uyech. Ketl.
ʼaduwóosʼ.
Dasa?
ʼaduwóosʼ.
We ketl. Gwall de cut at a kausagani. Just ketl uyech. Tag a ketl a dachawe kudziti. We is ka ausha kawayikde. Ketl. Gwall kunachawe wuhug ka shakir. Aka shilkas ketl a kade yekwati. Tlein ketl. One kanins shakir yeti. Gwall kudachawe sha'usa a ka yechat yechsanei. Kach ke guchledzi jis ya Tlein ketl awe kone ach shaki dachaye yekwati. Ye awecho ach tzakt kleru an awe tag we sha'us a yacheti duliechen. Aka awe ketl náakw awe ketl náakw. Dasatsu we tzakt tin. Isakuge. Kayani gwall tlell dulliech. Tlell adch udulliech.
Lachi.
Gwalli. Dasa? We tzakt. We the cut we kayani adaye kakiti. We wooch at. Ye awe gwall tag iti. Just ye keka huenji. Ya isitin gwall we is kayani. Ya kaudle huen. Just keka huenji. A'duwóosʼ huachashi. Gwall náakw gaka gwagud choa. Ganch chahin. A'duwóosʼ We gwall chwasatin guchsa we tzakt. وتوتا ʼaduwóosʼ adaati jachani. Weitzacht nadaihin akina at ʼaduwóosʼ. Shukwa ko'a yuchakwatan. Gunalchish asquani. Chade khatna'u. Achawe yikakwachash. náakw aya ikakwashayech. Chagudachaya yewuti. Yayidatsu. Ha tuwushitsini kach. ʼaduwóosʼ yiyadki aya kachwachashi. Aqa awe qanch akade yikakwasane daat qahin. Kakwasacha. Ya gwash yada yachiti gwash Cajun yeyati. Gwash just tleich, gwash just deich kakwachash. Tleich da kat aqa chagutsacht kakwashi. ʼaduwóosʼ quwaqan dugutsaki. Jiwu an aya. Tleich ʼaduwóosʼ chatwudachuni. Atroyat atin yikakwasane. Aqa we tleich kaden ulkats we llita. An awe ʼaduwóosʼ adach kakwasacha. Kakwasacha ge. We lltakat we daklekats. Daklekats aya adach igurtachun. Ya dalluni tsagwatiach yati tleich ʼaduwóosʼ lltakata dadach yikakisane yadayach. Kakikihats. Aqa awe we tsu yach yati dalluni. Weta. Tlatsini náakw yati. An awe gwash lltakat yagi chayu yach yati at kakikilug. Ikanikqa. Tleich. Ikanikqa. Dasatsu. Dak náakw sawi yisaku daat. Gwaltsuk yisaku daat we. Yadatsu adechat. Ako tleich we daklekats adach kakwachas. Daklekats ʼaduwóosʼ ayeyati. Ya hiti lltakat we qahat akina yikakwasane. Witzacht. Tleich ushke at. Tleich ade aya hiti yich uqagutiye. Aqa awe yatayis achjiyeti. Tzacht tlachtlatsini at. Sheet kak awe tleich hit chasatin. We bishop jiyisaya we shinget. Gwashas outlayech du hiti. Ya hasti ʼaduwóosʼ tsu daat yejiwune. Qone aya gwash wudaklach. Aqa awe has ausatin lltakat we t'aya tut. Tlein tzacht qutzati. Awe. Dasatsu. Naksa. Astaqatli. Astaqatli. Yisikuke ata. Astaqatli. Just yata awecho yisikuke tsigiqawu. Qanqanins kasiye ati hiti yiyeti tsigiqawu yiduasaka atskani tasakshawe. Wanqanins hiti kasiye at wooch kasiye at wuduwatin. Aqa awe ye awecho atcha gwashkakicha. Chashtakatat kakicha. Kuch tsiki akakaya yikakisene kakanch. Akawe we tsiki kawu. Asuin yukakwatan. Chade akhatna Ishan, Kwali Ishan, Kwali Twasagu, Hakanri eti, Kwali Twasagu Yak eti, Kalatwa Ashkuqa, Ataway Irede Gartuti, Yata, Aka Khan, Akach, Yekakisene, Kek Dehin Hoach Ya Achuni, Wait the Yachaya Yausene, Kesh Akawus Gan Hoa. One and is away, we eat the Kakaya Yewuti. Ka'ausatin, a jin, a kawa shati, atskani, aka kaudlachait kunach. Yata yich, kan, a ka yikakisenek, the katati tuasagu a kawasgani. Gwashko awis ike kawu a yeti yesu, asta gatli, gwashkone kisagani. Teshasu tua ushku hasa awasnihi. Ka shakawutsu kawaskani. Kwasha dachaska kwa. Just wait dachasaku ada. Dasatsu isakuge. Ikshaltin. Dasa isaku ada.
Oh, no, excuse me. Donna. Eight.
Dana again.
Drinking it?
Oh, 18 again.
Yeah.
Okay.
One.
Oh. How? Kwasha atini khiati. Kashuske atiha. Ikshaltin kwa náakw sati. Hat ikshaltin the katyagi. Kwalchago haku. Hasawa shugan. Ja, hast du Torsagu, hast du daat, hast du ʼaduwóosʼ. Ajoy takyagi. Gwash ni hoa kakatu gut. Tlatsini náakw. Tlatsin konachwe atuyeti tsacht. Katsekshaltin. Jaguta kutziti hoa gwash nik. Nikowe wudu. Nik kuwa shat. Ja, sheikh. Chat. Dashu atuyeti konachwe shantinagu ya sechwani chakawe wuduliechen disnigutin khun akachawe yis shkalneeek ha hast du tukta ati wuduliechen Tsika wooch at adechen tsika khun su wooch at gashye. Dakosatse kuch asta kuchu panachoyek Kleshitwashku utletiki at this kuch echyati gwash itchun chede itwasaku ikayeti kay khat kayani adayeti ye awe chago kaku ade aya kutitzanechiye chago gulchish ukecha gulchish tsukke chagutat chaka
ʼaduwóosʼ shkalneeek we chayu gunalchish.
Shukwa kahwan kwal yes takdeya kunehin yes kuaha takdeya kunehin shukwa kahwan itr a yanach kegurlenukts kahwech tsu kahwech kunachoe kwal ichud yanik chud yanik kudach we chicken nuggets khocha gecha we kahwech kakach tlidi wait datsu Just ayegu genki we kika hween. Uski kika hween. Just ishaka ye uti. Yewe ʼaduwóosʼ. Chai gwellach dallwni. Cynnychwi náakw sa tidi. Cha yan tsagwat. Aye uti we tlachlynugzi at. Yake ata gwechi we datsu. Tlach den chosako atan. Kachwanish kynach ʼaduwóosʼ. Just ayegu genki chosako. Tla tla shkalneeek has outlet Tlelkedin chosako adalcha we chosako duchai at we siu shakas ahu. Tlelkedin chosako adal. Ya tlek gwash yat yach iqut kadanja adachi gagwati. Dechasai kutzati hate sheku no like hate tei katzigi kawu sheku. Awa Tlelkedin chosako adat ya achoni ko lakotach sati du shishko. Icht husatien keka icht. One ya icht yejene dat yejiwone. Hit ye haswatien. Yes, the cutway hawa keko ku akayeti. Has to toss the konachoe cacao jacket. Cacao jacket. Gwash we ku ausatin. Cutly itchi at kanyacheti kakeshketi at. We achuni du klishko icht usatien. Gwash we cutly itchi at the day outlaken ausatin eka yeg. Gwash gukan, gwash gonate, gwash ka. Chitla ausatin ka. Gwash tzatnach du ya konachoe ya sheishli. The katat ya sheishli. We hate teyi a tut kadanja tin kahin. Yata aushayech. Du ya kaye ausane. Agatsu kewul. Zuwushitsini. Owa. Cheese. Hooch. Any reflections on any of that? Questions? I just wanted to ask you guys questions. I'll do it with other stuff too. Just think about, I don't know, I can't figure out what's kincheyi and what's choniech. I have a theory though. Which one is which? What are those things? Kincheyi, choniech.
Rose hips.
Yes. I think choniech is the flower. And I think kincheyi is the rosebud. It could certainly be the other way around. So if you could solve that for me, just go ahead.
Does kincheyi not mean just the whole flower?
I think it means the bud, the little, because you can eat that. There's a lot of vitamin C in it. But I think you have to peel it or boil it or something.
Rose hip?
Yeah. And then choniech, I think, is the flower. But if I'm wrong, they are the other way around. So it's not like I'm telling you go eat this thing that's gonna.
How is shkalneeek spelled?
Yeah. A.
Raised H.
Underline pinched X?
Yes. What's the vowel right after that?
U.
What's the consonant right after that? What's the consonant right after that? What's the vowel right after that?
High tone EI?
What's the consonant after that?
No.
Yay! Choniech. X underline apostrophe U N Y high tone EIL. I think that's how it's spelled.
Some people make rose hip tea too, right?
Yes, so you can make tea. There's a lot of vitamin C in that.
Marmalade.
Okay, let's see if I can say it. Shkalneeek wikikahween chsati. ʼatlein. Gwash. Konne aya etoasagu yisha ugu. Keshe toashku kudachyat just jaye gugink. Aga gwash iwak kunachyanik. On aya kukgi ooze iwak. I don't know if that's the right. It's probably gonna be something chish. But you're gonna splash it on your eyes. So what you do is, what I've been told, is if you have some sort of eye infection, you boil the petals of the shkalneeek, if I'm right on that, or kinchei. I do think it's shkalneeek. And then you wait and you let it cool down so you're not going to burn yourself. And you just want it kind of lukewarm, but you'll splash it on your eye and it'll help you.
So rose water?
Yep.
Not like eyelid or like your eye itself.
The eye. That's what I was told. What else? What other medicines were we talking about?
I know one that I mentioned that I don't even remember where I heard it. I feel really bad whenever I say that. I was like, I better start remembering who told me these things. But that they would drink it until they got sick. I think it might have been my
What?
first Tlingit language teacher.
Oh, wow.
So that's until you threw up black is what I was.
Oh. Geil. Yisikuke dasu geil.
Cake.
Yisikuke, the cut you on. Geil. One qanians we eight hini kach is geil yisatin. Dat gersatsu. One qanians we wasus ʼatachani. Tlitsini wasus ʼatachani. Qanachwe duwachak geil yachyati. Ka chokli. Qanachwe wuduwachak geil yachyati. Gwash cappuccino toasagu geil akayeti. Eight hini koa eka geil. Su yachyati at gwash adatki gwash we at katsku. Eight hini ka yak yikt. At away yakakanal titewe yak. Konea yadukhut kunachyanik to toasagu wuduskoowú. Geil aya duchede yekakiti. Yewech wa ach kat kelsu yekakwati.
Lichen?
Like, you put no lichen on a cappuccino?
Oh.
What was it? What's geil then? Foam. Yes, it's sea foam. Like sometimes you get this foam out on the ocean. So what I was told is, well, someone told me, they said, when I was a kid, I used to get seasick. It was Carolyn Martin. And she said my parents went and they scooped that up and they had me eat it when I was a kid. She said she didn't get seasick after that.
Really? That stuff doesn't look very good.
What was the part with catch? Am I catch that?
Oh. The dandruff you were talking about?
Yeah, dandruff. What else is it?
It's also ash.
That's right, ashes and dandruff. So there's quite a few words where it's like, I think it has a primary meaning, but it has this other meaning. So it's like, yeah, ash coming off your scalp. So the berries on Devil's Club, I don't know how. I just know that that's what they used to use a long time ago. If someone had a lot of shocky use those berries.
You would use it for what?
Dandruff shampoo. Shuhwa shaka hiksha. It's the first Head and Shoulders.
So they would burn it into ash?
No.
Or
No.
they would boil it?
The word for dandruff is the same word for ash.
Oh.
That's where that came from.
Well, how would they use the berries for it?
I don't know. I think you might mash it and put it in like a paste and then go rinse it off. Some people might know.
How do you say it makes a person smart? Yeah, kid's a gay.
Yeah, but my friend already got that name, Tim Hall. Smarty pants.
And did you
Would
say
the-
you use deer hide gloves to harvest sock?
I do. Like, I just find you get less pokies. That's been my experience. I had a pair of deer hide gloves. I could just grab it. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
You were talking about the protocol for gathering and using some of it.
Yeah.
Speaking to it. You said gunch? Is that tobacco?
Yeah, so I usually give it tobacco and water. I bring tobacco and water, and I usually say, I got the same kind, it's a bit of a script, so I'd say like, ʼaduwóosʼ or ʼaduwóosʼ is another way I've heard it said. ʼaduwóosʼ, that's why I'm going to cut you. Yeah, náakw for our spiritual medicine, for what will become our spiritual medicine. Then I'll usually say thank you, and I'll say my ancestors did this, I'll do this. And then I'll make an offering before making the first harvest of some. So I usually go, set everything down, talk, give it the tobacco, put the tobacco in the water just at the base of that plant. And then you just use the stalks, is really what I've been taught. And you just take a little bit from each cluster, right, that grows in these clusters. And you don't want to take it all, so you just take some. And then you use a pretty, because it's kind of a dull knife, so it doesn't, cut into it. And you go sideways and you scrape off all the cuts, which would be the what? The thorns. And then ʼaduwóosʼ.
Brown bark.
Yeah, and then you get the green bark, and that's what you want. And you make tea out of it. I think shkalneeek and daat are things that you use for daily medicines. Like that's what ʼaduwóosʼ taught me. It's like, oh, I don't think you guys could see it. My little, check out the camera. But basically, like a light brown color. If something's a light brown, that's usually what you're going for your daily medicines. But if someone gets sick, you make it into a really dark brown. ʼaduwóosʼ, shkalneeek, náakw, I guess is how you say it. Headache medicine.
ʼatudli is beneath the thorns.
ʼaduwóosʼ is the outer bark.
Ah.
ʼaduwóosʼ. So we named the pineapple ʼaduwóosʼ.
Is that one, two words? Oh, ʼatudli.
One word. ʼaduwóosʼ and ʼaduwóosʼ. It's like ʼaduwóosʼ, the cracker around the tree.
Did you say that the red berries on sucked were for dandruff?
Yeah, so I've heard.
So do you think also for psoriasis on scalp?
Maybe. I think deer tallow and tallow, so contractions and wooch were used to make into salves. And I think that was for a lot of skin ailments. And also, they always wore sunblock. I think they always did. If they're going out in the water, they just put that tallow on, they would make a salve out of it. And so they would always, but that's why they were like, even when they're getting the sun, they had real nice skin. And then, let's see, I'll just summarize. Let's see, some other things I think I talked about. the tree pitch. So you want the tree pitch usually on the north side of the tree. And why would you want it on the north side of the tree?
Most sun,
Least sun.
least sun.
The right area. So sun gets on it, it starts to harden, and you want the softer stuff because you use it for to seal up an open wound. And you could put. There's two things I think you could do. You can use it to close the wound, and then there's two different things I've heard for. I think for coastal Tlingit, you would take a leaf from skunk cabbage and wrap it around there. And for inland Tlingit, you would take a beaver pelt. And if you know what you're doing, I don't know how to do it, you can peel the skin layers off of it, and you would use a layer of that. I also said there's something really special about those we talked about the mushrooms on the tree, ʼatudli.átk, the bear bread, I guess people call it. And I don't know that much about that one. I only heard that if you have a ghost in your house, the steps that I was instructed on was you offer it food and you just talk to it and you say, I'm sure you want to be here and maybe you're lonely, but I'm sorry, but we don't want you to be here. And then you offer them food, but you have to burn it. You have to. I knew someone who was staying in a dorm and they made a spirit dish and then they're like, oh, take it out later, and they forgot. And then late that night they went to the bathroom and something was trying to grab them under the stall. So take care of your spirit dishes, burn them all away if you're going to do that with them. But then if they won't leave, you can burn a little bit of that ʼaduwóosʼ. They don't like that. Or you could burn a little bit of human hair. And if that doesn't work, I guess call an old priest and a young priest or something, because those are the only tips that I've ever learned. I think I also talked about the puffball mushroom. I don't know that much about it, but I know it has two very cool names. ʼatudli.átk. What would that translate to?
Red, or not, rope?
ʼatudli.átk.
Thunderbird down.
Thunderbird something.
Big feather. Oh.
ʼatudli.átk.
Hey.
Someone's got it. Thunderbird's rock. The other name is ʼaduwóosʼ.
Ghosts.
Ghosts.
Berry.
Nope. Ghosts. Face paint. We were looking for face paint. Okay. Spooky things for 1,000. I'm just kidding. I think that's all.
Adam, could
Huh?
you please turn on the light? I forgot to turn it on.
Oh.
Apologies.
Okay. Anything else?
What was the last thing you were talking about? You were talking about face paint, was it?
Oh yeah. So the puffball mushroom, which has two names, Thunderbird's rock and ghost face paint. A friend of mine who is Lakota, this is the only thing I ever heard about. So he told me.
I thought you said I was wondering.
His grandpa was a medicine person, and they would have these ceremonies in a building, and they would put blankets over all the walls or all the windows, so everything would just be pitch black. And they would start their ceremony part, and everybody's really singing, and it's just going real hard. And people would see like a little sparkling blue and red light. I've seen them. I don't know how else to describe them. It's like in the corner of your vision, but when you look, it's not there. But they said that's the spirit helpers coming in to be part of the ceremony. And if you're a medicine person and you looked, you could see what they look like. And so his grandpa would look, it'd be like a deer or a monster looking. There was all kinds of things he would see. And he would have a stroke, and half his face would go sheishi. It would be just completely limp, like paralyzed on half his face. And he would make a paste out of that puffball mushroom in water and put it on his face and it would go back. But he did it so many times that towards the end of his life, it was just always like that.
Uipi, that's what the ceremony is. If
Oh.
it's the right one I'm thinking of. Uipi, and a lot of the times, whoever they're doctoring gets wrapped up in a blanket and tied up in rope. And then when they're done, when they flip on those lights, even if nobody's been around that person, they're usually out because the spirits did that doctoring and they took them out of that blanket.
Yeah. But he said they'd be outside just smoking cigarettes and visiting, and his grandpa would be like, time to go. And everyone would hurry inside and then close the door. And they'd hear something hit the ground outside and come running up the hill. And then it would just hit that door and they would lock. They had all these locks on it. He said the door would be locked. And then they'd start singing and you'd hear that door open and close like that. And then you could smell like it had been dry for a long time, especially down there. It's like, we don't know what that's like. And not in this part, like in ʼaduwóosʼ, like it's just wet everywhere. But if it's dry for a long time and it just starts raining and you could smell it, he said that's what it smells like when they come in. Anyways, okay, we gotta get to work. Well, this is work, but we get to the next thing. Let's cheese.
Ask a real quick. You said ʼatudli.átk. ʼatudli.átk, and so that's gotch is in there, and so that's like the cracker around the tree or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so is it so what came first, the cracker or the I mean, what was named first, I guess? Was it the cracker or was it the bear bread? Because if it's the cracker around the tree, it seems like they'd have to have the word for cracker already and
Right.
then put it on the tree. But it seems like, gosh, there would be a name for that bear bread fungus long before anybody brought up pilot bread up here. So you know what I mean? It seems like it's kind of backwards, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that Sailor Boy was sailing way back in the day. So I do think, because there's two things. There's ʼatudli.átk, which has, the possessed form of ʼatk. And then there's the white mushroom that has the big kind of saucer looking top. That one's called ʼaduwóosʼ. So it's in that name as well. So I think there is something to that ʼatk. And I think what we did is we saw the pilot bird, but hey, it looks like those things on the trees. We'll just call it ʼatudli. And then it became, then we eat that and then something else eats the other thing. And the squirrel, I guess, eats those little white mushrooms. So, yeah, it's a good question. But yeah, ʼatudli.átk is also a term that I've heard for, I think we gave that, they would call, okay, if you were a fisher person, you would probably know this. Those little white buoys that you put on the net, those are called ʼatudli.átk. I think it's ʼaduwóosʼ. So I don't know. I have to look it up. So we gave something like that to a life vest somewhere. I'll have to look it up. We'll do a deep dive on ʼatudli. Maybe shkalneeek has something in his notes. So this class has been brought to you by Sailor Boy, the official pilot bread. Okay, now I gotta tell you funny. Okay. Gwell day in shkalneeek. Click the heen awe. Yeah. Chunnachawe chasachani tlaus tla. Qaq shi ayadu saitsu. Deishi tan shawu. Chunnachawe au shaku daat. Náakw qallengit kusti. Qahayu qatangi. Natasahin aya. Aye wutien. Tlachna tasahin qaqeqa. Tagish aya. Ye awa du hiti atla'a. Click the heen qa'a. Ak quan ani de wooch yak Tlein. Ya a hiti yik aya kakwahe. Aka an gunde. Ku aya yakwahe. Yuchadaya wakuch yak Tlein dachawe wu good. Ka ach atbututzachuch at yikde awe wu nuk. Wooch ach woo's what's that yeti? Yeowachaнаkoning. Hetwasachatuti waedes. Achtu yikech satini kachonach. Akawe yechat yausaka. Sunny boy achtuasakucha. Ja achtuasaku hundake hiti degachtukuchu. Yisikuge? Chatawe. Achtuas chosaku hundake hiti. Da sakshwe choa sunny boy. Qatl, ay, tlashli saku ke qatl da. Chosaku sailor boy, you would do a sock choa. Wallach tuasaku yis chuch ayayach wat lachijis. Qakonachwe at butushuk. Okay, gotta translate my little story.
I love this story, by the way. I've heard it. You've told me it before.
What happened? It's a funny story.
You were up at studying language and culture and seeing friends up near Tlein.
It's close. So at Natasahin, which is also known as, on the maps, near Tagish, right next to Tagish. Oh, y'all don't know our country? Oh, Ishan. It is called Caribou Crossing, Carcross. So from Carcross, near Carcross, there's a place called Tagish. There's an elder that I just really love who's from there. Her name is Tla or Qakanshi. She was coming down and she was going to stay with me. And I picked her up at the ferry. She was going to go to Angoon the next day, I think. Day or two later, I can't remember. And she pulled, and we would always speak Lingi. So I said, "What's ayeti?" She said, "Hetwasachatuti waedes." I said, "Achtu yekech satini." That's when she said, "Sailor, sunny boy achtuasakucha." So she's telling me, I want sunny boy. And then she was saying, "I want to go to the store. I want sunny boy." Then she goes, and she must have seen my face because she's like, "Do you know? You said kuke?" I said, "Well, I know the store, but I don't know what the sunny boy is." And she goes, "Qatl, wait, tlashli se kuke qatl." Don't you know about pilot bread? I said, "Oh, it's called sailor boy." And I said, I was gonna go get you a new husband. And we just laughed and laughed. She's so cute, she's so fun. You guys put some sentences together, didn't you? I want to see what y'all came up with, and then we're going to take a look at this word list. We're going to make sure we know what all 387 of these words are in the next 34 minutes. So who wants to share some things you put together?
Ach eat koha. Kanashkadech sati we ka. Anyarich sati we sha. Kustuyach. Wooch has our sha. We shade honey. Do on. Away Hooch.
Yeah, so your job is just to make some sentences. I was just teasing about reconstructing the entire story. So, and there's it's so fun because it's like a story in a box. It's like just ready to be assembled. And we go to the IKEA. I don't want to keep saying that. We go to the mysterious furniture store, and they give us a box full of parts. And you know what's neat? Maybe you make a futon. Maybe you make a bunk bed. Maybe you make a desk. How fun! Anybody else put them together? In any ways. If you didn't do it yet, you'll
Gusu sahan. Shat atsku tlesh ushek
ʼaduwóosʼ ʼaduwóosʼ tak ʼaduwóosʼ. Wooch. Yak and shkalneeek. Wooch. Yak. Asatsu yeji wuni. Wait, crickets got kesh kusti yach. Wasa at gwane. Gwash ʼaduwóosʼ daat yeji ne. Gwash just Tlein hicht. Gwane aya kekwashi. We have no crickets, so what's gonna happen when I ask you what you worked on? Like just one single frog's gonna start singing a song or croaking over there.
Yeah.
Ah,
Shakaatskú chodziti. Wooduskoowú sahan. Tlesh ushka. Tlesh ushka eyi. Wasa. Anya dich sati. Loch city. Unich city. Do eek. Do chuch. Do seek. Do shot. Do shotch. Hech. Utiye. Do yeet. Do yegi. Yeyatiye. Do yatki. Do wuduskoowú. Tak. ʼaduwóosʼ. Do achaye. Wooch. Wooch.
sheesh, yak. There's such a wonderful collection of words to choose from. Ka ish, ka shikshani, ka dastiya, ka kuchtla, ka ish, hastu dach aya, ka adiyach yati hajiyis, achtu yak and sheesh. Anyone else?
Yaduchat
Ah.
sahan ʼaduwóosʼ weka. Tak itich kudzati. Tlein weka. Ida tak awe kusiat. Sahan yanik. Wooch.
Good sheesh. Yak. Super. Okay. You'll still have chances. Monday's class will all be online. So those of you who come to the room, if you want to still be in the room, yeah, okay. But you just have to figure out your audio and video stuff. So wherever you want to Zoom from, I'll be 4 hours ahead of you folks here. And I'll teach from the Empire State Building. Chatka we an daat hiki Tlein. I deka kwasha tu yashin get da. King Kong you do a sako achuni do iqaqak washiyuch. So let's this story is out. The books have come in. The big news is y'all get a free book. I just had to figure out how to get it to you. And when it comes, then you'll see what order these words do go in the story. This is probably 10 years in the making. I get a little emotional because it is the last thing that I worked on with George Davis and March Dudson. They unfortunately passed. We did we had 9 stories that we were working on. I think we did 5 of them. And then during the 5th one, we lost George. And I lost a lot of my motivation, and then we lost Marge. And then I brought it to Sitka, and I asked if they would help me. And so Ethel Mackinnon and Herman Davis and Ann Johnson, they finished it up for us. It's a neat little story. So there's a couple of things. So there's a beautifully illustrated book that's coming out. And not only is it beautiful, but there's no English in the book at all. I'm very excited about that. Some people might not be as excited, but I think it's a wonderful thing. There is going to be an animated, it's an animated version, but it's not like a full-on cartoon. It's like I'm reading it out loud, and then there's the animations happening, because I think that also really helps people with meaning. Well, there'll probably be subtitles on it, but I'm very nervous about the English really just taking things over and then people ignoring the Tlingit, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll deal with my own anxiety in regards to that. What else? I've made a glossary. It's probably the most comprehensive glossary I've made, and so Richard Dowenhauer and I used to talk a lot about how to make glossaries for stories. And so this is an attempt to just really define every single word that's in there so that you can work with the glossary. And then there's also some different documents I've created that help people do the translation on their own, because it's supposed to be a teaching tool. So the other thing too is like continuing to think about how we do the work ourselves so we can just get to know the language a lot more. So the other thing that I did is I did a detailed word analysis of this. So this thing's running a little slow, but. So here is every word that's in the story organized. Let's see, I'll make this a little bigger. So the way that this table works is there's the verbs first, and then, let me put this up here, put this down. So you have the verbs first, and then they are in here as they appear, and then there's the verb theme over here, then the verb root. And when you see the word frequency, when you see the line for frequency over here, that's how many times it appears in that verb form. So it's in sati 4 times, but nachsatit is the same verb, and wusati is the same verb. So that's why you have the verb, that's why it's also over here in terms of how often does this verb root appear. So this is the most common verb in the story, is sati. So I think this kind of stuff is interesting. So then it shows you it doesn't list them every single time, but sati is in there 4 times as sati. Shkalneeek is in there 4 times as shkalneeek. Which means I've got to adjust this count. Okay, I don't know. I got myself confused sometimes working on this. Then it goes down to non-verbs, and the most common word in this story is d, followed by aweh, followed by hus, followed by weh, followed by tlech, and then yah and yeh. And none of that is surprising. Usually when you analyze a story, aweh is the most common word. And this might be a little different than others because the way we did it was line by line, going from English to Tlingit, as opposed to tell me the story that you know in Tlingit, right? Which might get you a different type of thing. But like, I was thinking about this to do this type of analysis so that we can see what do you need to tell a story. And in order to tell this story, you needed these verbs. And so the other thing that's on, there's a different thing that I'm not going to show you yet that also lists what the verb modes are. So it also shows you what every verb mode is. Like, for example, do you know what verb mode this is? Sati?
Perfective. Is it perfective?
It's not perfective, or else it'd be w.
Imperfective.
Yes, and do we know what type of imperfective it is? Because there's two different kinds. Well, I guess there's three. Sorry. What are the three
Well,
different?
it's positive.
That means it has to be, well, I mean, it's positive, and so, but also the classifier is plus I. There's only one, that means there's one option left. Because it's plus I, anybody know? Yeti, Shitzin, Yanik. It's a state imperfective, right? So that is a state imperfective. What about this one? Wustati.
Okay, that one's perfect.
That is a perfective. You were just jumping ahead, looking into the future with your magic vision, okay? Yeah, what about nachsatit? If you
Is that a hortative?
if you took the letter T off, that is a hortative. Adding the letter T makes it what we call purposive, or so it could happen. So that form would be so it could be one of those things, right? So I could say, shkun echatgeti ku ʼatudli.átk chatnachsatit. I'm in school so I can become a teacher. Okay. So it's a deep analysis, right, of this story. And so there's, if you wanted to go, so how would you translate nachsatit? It's interesting because the verb is also being separated from some of its other components. So you got to do a little bit of
Math.
puzzle work, yeah.
So it could become.
Yeah, so it could become, and then you could just say blank, right? So you could just say there's some other thing that it's missing a part, and when you use this verb, it's going to be an. So it could be whatever the thing that's marked, right? So you could say achonich nachsatit, so they could become my friend, right? Or you could say just whatever the thing is. Okay.
ʼaduwóosʼ nachsatit.
So they could become my friend. Achyanayich nachsatit, so they could become my enemy. If you need to go that way. So it does sort of separate. So you got to you're looking at things as individual words, which does kind of fragment it, but I think it's helpful to sort of look at that. And then when you start to assemble the parts, like this one, what does, maybe this one's more common. This needs something, right? It's missing a part because it's counting individual words. Klesh. It's actually
Klesh.
one other thing if you look at the verb theme. The two. So it's missing klesh, blank blank, ushku.
Tuwa.
Tuwa. Klesh, blank, tuwa, ushku. Yep.
Yeah.
Ach, de, klesh de tuwa, ushku. Klesh ach tuwa, ushku. Klesh de tuwa, ushku. Klesh ha tuwa, ushku.
Should the G and the H be switched?
Ooh, yes, good catch. Sheesh. Boy, I hope it's not that way in the printed version. There are 4 typos so far, so don't go looking for them. Okay, so we'll go through some of this stuff. I want to give you all a chance. Anything on this word list where you don't know what it is, you don't know how to use it? I know you all looked at it.
Yeah.
Name one.
Wuduskoowú.
Okay, so what is shkalneeek? Anybody know?
Look it up. Wealthy.
They are wealthy, right? So as it's written right there, shkalneeek, they are wealthy. You can say shkalneeek, shkalneeek. It's a state verb. So then what would wuduskoowú be?
They were.
Yes, or maybe they became. Some of these get a little tricky when we move them into the perfective, like wussity. Like, and so I would say it's not wrong to say they were wealthy, but I would just probably say they became wealthy. And you know, you could also say they were wealthy. Any others that we're not sure about?
Is book not just the negative of that?
Yep. So it needs to have tlech in front of it. Right, and so we see like the is there. That classifier isn't actually the letter L, right? I mean, it is right there. That classifier is shla. But if is right before shla, sa, or sha, it'll knock the A out of it. Get out of here, A.
Or what?
Sa, shla, sha. All of those can experience vowel cancellation.
So S, L, and SH, but not ya or wa.
Well, not ya or da.
Okay.
You can't knock the vowels out of those. Because you couldn't just have a letter D for a classifier.
And is that only with that particular prefix, or do other prefixes do that too?
Ooh, okay, now that's a nice time to transition to our little slideshow of the evening. Goodness sheesh. This slideshow is brought to you by Sunny Boy, the official ʼatudli of the Tlingit peoples. Okay, let's see, let me find where it is. I think it's right here. A vowel deletion in the classifier. So we sometimes mark this if we're glossing, but you don't have to. Like what you do is if you were to segment and gloss that, I would go U-LA- root marker náakw. And that's, I just write it that way. And then we know that happens. So the way that vowel deletion works is if you have sa, shla, or sha, only those three, those are the only three that this can happen to. If right before that you have na, qa, y, daqa, or du. The du is an exception. It doesn't really cause the vowel deletion. It pushes it plus D. So that's different, but it ends up sounding exactly the same. But all of these, but it has to be right there, right? It has to be right. There can't be anything in between it. So that means there either has to be no subject pronoun or it has to be third person. Because if there's cha or t or I or y, that will block the vowel deletion. It's like, I got you, classifier. No one's going to take your letter A. But if you have like for example, you say cha, sha, tin. I'm watching it. Itlatin, yitlatin, tutlatin, ashtin. There it is. It's right there. You have seen this. You have said, it happens, right? Tlech, chwa, sa, k. Tlech, ʼaduwóosʼ. That's the reason. That's the reason why. Okay, and and these rules are always interesting to me because there's a rule for it, but if you don't know the rule, then you end up saying tlech, and it's not quite right, right? Tlech, it's not quite right. Tlech, and you're going to find a bunch of verbs that do that, right? Tlech, they didn't write it, but the same thing is going on there. Is you have this thing going right up against sha, and so it knocks it out. Sha knocks it out. Sa knocks it out. Same with qa and na but q will not if it's contracted to ch. So let's go verb sleuthen and see if we could find examples of this in the verb database, which maybe I didn't open yet. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So here's the verb database. We'll just see if we could think of any sa, sha, or shla classifier verbs. There's some with ''át, I know that. So this has an L classifier, so is it going to do that type of thing? So you'll see ''chwashla'at, ''awshla'at, ''chwashla'at. Oh yeah. Oops, ''aduwóosʼ. Predictable, right? In the negative perfective, this is where it's going to probably happen the most. And this is something this is one of the tricky parts of the negative perfective, is that if you have shla, sa, or sha, that third person is usually going to end up with the vowel knocked out version. What's another one? Okay, common verbs. Let's look at common verbs. Like, let's see, to set fire to something, although maybe we don't all know this verb, but here we have a kauchlagan, I lit it on fire. At a kauchlagan, they lit it on fire. Klesh at a kauchlagan, I didn't light it on fire. Klesh at a kauchlagan. So the other places this might be happening, so you see this here? A kauchlagan. That is a qa, but it's been contracted to that underlined X, so it doesn't have that effect. But if you had, if you went up to, let's see, let's find a different verb. Oh, it's not going to happen there. Might happen here. There it is. Ke nachsakan. Ke anaskan. So the na is causing that vowel to get knocked out. Chwasakan, ausakan. Fine. Chwasakan, awuskan. And in the hortative, no, you got aguchsakan. Or that's the future, sorry. Achsakan. Okay. Here it's happening here. Usganj. Because there's a right before it. Well, you have and then both of them. Okay. Vowel deletion. Everybody's favorite thing. So one of the things I want us to start going over is, how does prefix contraction work? And this is right along the lines of what we're talking about now. There is a set of rules. So what we're going to focus on right now and next week is this list of things. So these things that are on here, I want you to know every single one of those things. So if I just saw you in the street and I was like, what is daat? You better be ready. You better be ready to answer. And I'm just going to be out. I'm going to be out in these streets. I just hold up like a gray card. Just follow everybody around. What is And it's gray. You'd be like, that's the irialis. I'm like, okay, have a great day. And then, that'd be a fun world. Okay. So just starting to think about this, we've got a color system, right? So every one of these things has its own color. They occur in a certain order. You do get some things that jump over some things. Like the perfective jumps over the cha. It just happens. The irialis jumps over the cha. It just happens, right? But usually they're going to stay in the same order that they're at. And the one thing I think that I'll develop this year, I don't think that I've done it yet, is what's the order, right? So like, which one is the alpha particle? So like, for example, I have these two dogs. One dog will only eat if the other dog, if there's no chance that dog is coming in the room, right? And so that's what, like, That is the contracting dog. Like I'll contract, I'll give up my vowel, right? And so the other dog is like the t. That's the t. She's like, I ain't giving up no vowels. Everybody else gives a vowel. I eat everybody's food. So we wanted to figure that out too, because when some of these things run into each other, there are predictable patterns, and I want you to learn those patterns so that you'll say, okay, qa plus kha is qa, and you'll just then you'll start to see it all over the place. And I think doing this helps you become a much better predictor of what the prefix is going to be, because if you can predict the prefix, you've got the verb, you've got it. And we can learn stem variation, but even if you're wrong on the stem, everyone will know what you're saying. Any questions so far? So the way that I've got a couple different images to think about these things. And one of the things that I've done with the conjugator, which is the next slideshow after this one, is to show you like here is every single spot. You can only have one thing in a spot. And so probably 6 years ago, I made this. So this was another way I was thinking about it. It's like a switchboard where you can switch these things. And then if the light goes on, that means you're using it. Doesn't mean you have to. But for example, this is a perfective verb. So the perfective marker is on right here. You can activate an object. You can activate a subject. Here's the classifier. It has to be plus I. That's a perfective. A perfective means the perfective marker is there and the classifier is plus I. Now you have a perfective verb. When you change the object and subject or the classifier, that's gonna affect it, right? But you'll have ʼaduwóosʼ, ʼaduwóosʼ, ʼchosaku, ʼchoshatin. But what you'll find is that prefix, there's only certain ways you can build that prefix. So once we learn how to do that, that will help us get off of the books. Advanced Lingi, it starts to become about getting off the books. So you can just, this set of verbs, and then you can learn how to put these prefixes together. And it's not easy, but it's possible. And it's totally achievable. So this shows you do have preverbs that you can activate. Some of them are mandatory, and we'll get to that. We're not going to deal with the reciprocal. Well, I guess you'd say if you put wooch or wooch in front of the verb, it has to go plus D. That's just how it works. Third person pluralizer, this is hus. There is another one, which is dach, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Here's your objects. We've learned object pronouns. So if we zoom way in, we have chet, ha, yi, zero or ka or k, ut, ush, and the reflexive, sh. Those are very tiny. We'll look at bigger models than this. You can have I gotta update this. You can have 4 thematic prefixes. Oh man, this is a lot of work in Photoshop. I don't know if I want to do it. I think put this one, put it in the frame, put it in the museum, and just say it's one for the archives. We're not going to deal with self-benefactive. You can ask about it some other time if you want to know. But the conjugation, you have 3 spots. Is it 3? Boy, now I'm doubting myself. So we'll get to these, right? But this is just sort of one way to look at it. So when we start going through these, there's the preverb, and there's more than this. But what I've tried to do is just say these are the most common ones. This is what you need to speak. You could start getting really fancy and learn a whole bunch more preverbs if you want to. A lot of them are motion preverbs. But we're going to go through what each one of these are. We're going to go through what each one of these are, the object pronouns. And you might know these ones already. We're going to go through thematic prefixes. There's 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Slot number 2 has quite a bit more than this. But we can learn those later. It's like learn the basics. You got to get the fundamentals before you start doing windmill dunks and stuff like that, right? Conjugation, 4 spots here as well. Dang it, okay. Well, that works out because when I do finally update my conjugation switches, I can add 2. That keeps it even. Add 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. When you read these, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the order they go in. This one's first, this one's second. So you can have k, j, you can have k, sh, ka, right? I don't think I've ever seen a verb with 4. I think 3 is the max that I've ever seen. Conjugation also does occur in the order that goes left to right. Ga, 0 ka, na, you, and ka.
Lance,
Yep.
is shkalneeek one with 4?
Shkalneeek.
Shkalneeek.
Sha.
How the boat
Oh.
setting gear. Chat tiki. Shkalneeek. Halibut boat.
I think there's only sha and ka though, because the na is
Okay.
the conjugation. The one that I think has that I know of that has the most is shkalneeek. So that has ek and sha and then ka. There was a couple others, but yeah, we'll go find some. That'll be our next mission. Is go find the ones with the most thematic prefixes. Just go do deep dive in the verb dictionary. Next is the subject. So the nice thing I think with the object and the subject is there's only this is all of them. This is all of the objects, and then this is all of the subjects. There might be one more object. We're not worried about that. No. Okay. But for the subjects, for sure, this is all of them. You can only have these, right? And so that's nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You only have 6 things to choose from. I'm doing it, we're doing it, you're doing it, y'all are doing it, they're doing it. It's being done. Boom, right? And so it's a nice, digestible thing. I'll just show you the last 4 and then we'll shut her down. The classifier, we'll talk about the classifier. But the classifier is all dependent upon the verb mode. So it's going to be a part of a group, and then this top left one is its default mode. That's the natural state of the classifier, 0, sa, sha, and sha. It can go plus I to say it happened or potentially will happen. And it can go plus D, usually to say the subject is kind of the object. Then you have stem variation, which is just saying what is the vowel in the stem. Is it be short and high, long and high, or long and low? Those are your 3 options. You can have a suffix, and we'll show you what each of these suffixes mean and how they're typically used. And then you can have a post verb, but I do think it's pretty rare. Suffixes are rare, and then post verbs are even more rare. So this is your albino raven or whatever. I don't know. And so we'll look at them and how they all come together and how they, the focus of this presentation though is the prefix. So we're not going to do all of the suffixes just yet. We'll get to those later. But for now, that's it. DOA. You got your list of 387 words. See if you can come up with more sentences. Just have fun with it. They're already there. But you can only use them once, and you just see how many sentences you can assemble. And then next week, I'll show you what every single one of those words mean. Every single one. Guarantee. Me and King Kong, we're going to show it to you in the Empire State Building. And sheesh.
Wait, before class people leave, I wanted to, for people who are in Juneau, get together in person around a table with snacks or something and try to speak mostly Tlingit. And a couple of people I asked said that like Thursday evening, like early, like 4:30 or something, or Friday might work for them. Is there people in, maybe you could put in the chat box if you're not physically here, but if you're in Juneau, a time that you would be interested in doing that. Because if we did that once a week, that'd be a lot better than not.
Yeah, you can.
And weekends work for me if anybody wants to reach out. Usually me and Mato can meet up on the weekends.
I think meeting at Thursday at 4:30 is probably pretty doable for some folks, and we can make sure that the language room gets opened up.
Oh, we have a language room here, yeah?
Yes,
Where is it?
it's right near the coffee shop, but we never use it, so.
It's
locked.
We should just go start hanging out in there.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure that it's open at Thursday, tomorrow at 4?
Okay, we walked by this bentwood box that we saw during some event, and it's used to collect ballots for like, it's old school. We used to use it for at Clinton Haida when we used to do ballots by hand, which is, nobody has to do that anymore. But we suffered for But I walked by it one time, and it's fun. It's like a really nice bentwood box, but it's got this thing installed on it so you could put a padlock on it. And I looked at it, and I nudged someone. I said, "Padlocked." That's it. Shut the whole thing down. Okay. Wonderful idea. Let's keep the idea going. I will send an email out to the group so that we have a thread, and yeah, let's get some times. Let's get multiple times and opportunities together to speak Tlingit and to use it. So, shkalneeek is the question. 5 p.m. slightly better than 4:30. Thursday's fine, Friday not. So I will send an email tonight to try and get that language room opened from, I'll just say 3 to 6 p.m. on Thursdays. So it's just ready. Okay, and Fridays, and we can have multiple times. So let's make sure, let's carry on this conversation on Tuesday, because I also need to privately collect everybody's address so I can somehow get books to people. I need a mailer. I need someone who can just make things for me. So figure it out.
Okay, but yeah, 5 p.m. tomorrow. Show up.
I can do that. Up there?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
It only needs at least one person plus me.
It might be open. If it's not, wooduskoowú, British.
Safe travels.
Diagon.
Yes.
PM.
Look, geez.
Okay.